The concert hall stood tall and quiet before the evening began, like it was holding its breath. Rows of polished seats curved around the stage, glowing softly under warm lights. Every detail spoke of wealth, discipline, and long tradition. This was a place where mistakes were remembered and perfection was expected. Backstage, the pianist prepared himself. He had played on many stages like this before, maybe even better ones. He was known for his sharp technique, his control, and the way his fingers never seemed to hesitate. People often said he was born for the piano. He believed that too. He adjusted his jacket, glanced at his reflection, and gave a small, confident smile. To him, music was not just art. It was rank. It was proof of who belonged at the top and who did not. Years of praise had shaped him this way. Applause had become his mirror. When he stepped onto the stage, the audience responded right away. Quiet claps grew into louder ones. He nodded slightly, not in thanks, but in expectation. This was how things always were. He sat at the grand piano and placed his hands on the keys. When he began to play, the sound filled the hall with precision. Every note was clean. Every pause was planned. The audience listened closely, impressed by his skill. Yet something was missing. The music was perfect, but it felt distant, like a beautiful painting behind glass. Still, no one dared to question him. He was respected. He was elite. As the final note faded, the applause came again. He stood, bowed, and accepted it without surprise. To him, this was not a gift. It was a result. While the hall buzzed with quiet admiration, a figure appeared near the side aisle. A woman stood there holding her hands together, as if unsure where to place them. Her clothes were simple, clean, but worn. Nothing about her suggested. She belonged in this space of shining shoes and careful manners. She had arrived early, sat through the performance without moving much. Her eyes stayed on the pianist, not with awe, but with something gentler. It was the look of someone listening deeply, not judging, not comparing. After the applause settled, the host stepped forward and spoke about the beauty of music and the joy of sharing it. There was talk of tradition, of talent, of standards. The pianist listened with half an ear. His eyes drifted across the crowd. That was when he noticed her. She had moved closer to the stage, standing where only performers usually stood. A few people turned to look at her. Some frowned. Others whispered. She seemed unaware of the attention, or maybe she chose not to react. The pianist felt a spark of irritation. He did not like surprises, especially ones that broke the order he trusted. The host paused, unsure how to respond. The woman lifted her head and spoke softly. Her voice did not carry far, but it was steady. She said she loved music. She said she had listened to the piano her whole life, even when she could not afford lessons or instruments. She asked if she could sit at the piano, just for a moment. A hush fell over the hall. The pianist let out a short laugh. It was not loud, but it was clear enough. He stood and turned toward her, his expression calm but sharp. This was not a place for wishes, he said. This was a stage earned through years of training. He asked her where she studied, who taught her, which hall she had played in. She answered honestly. She said she had no teacher. No hall, no record. Just time and love for sound. Some people in the audience shifted uncomfortably. A few smiled politely, already expecting what would happen next. The pianist shook his head. He spoke louder now, letting everyone hear. He said music was not something you simply felt your way into. It required discipline, structure, and standards. Without them, it was nothing but noise. The woman listened without interrupting. Her face did not change much, but her hands tightened slightly. He continued, carried by his own words. He said allowing just anyone to play would insult those who worked hard to earn their place. He asked her if she truly thought she belonged on the same stage. There was a pause. Long enough to feel heavy, she did not raise her voice. She did not argue. She only said she did not want to take anything from anyone. She only wanted to share one song. The audience waited. Some were curious now. Others felt embarrassed for her. A few felt uncomfortable with the way the moment was unfolding, but no one stepped in. The pianist felt something close to excitement. This was his ground. His rules? He believed this moment would remind everyone why he stood where he did. "Fine," he said at last. If she wanted to play, she would have to earn it. He suggested a challenge. A simple one, he claimed. A short duel. He would play first, then she would follow. If she failed, she would step away and never return to this stage. The word duel echoed in the hall, stirring something in the crowd. It sounded dramatic. Final, the woman hesitated. Not because she feared losing, but because she did not want to turn music into a contest. Still, she understood the choice before her. Walk away and remain invisible. Or sit down and speak through sound. She nodded. The pianist took his seat again, confidence flowing back into him like a familiar coat. He chose a piece known for its difficulty. Fast runs, sharp turns. A test of control. As he played, his fingers moved quickly, almost proudly. He wanted to impress. He wanted to dominate the moment. The audience leaned in, caught up in the speed and strength of it. When he finished, the applause came once more. Louder this time. He stood and gestured toward the piano, inviting her forward with a thin smile. She walked slowly, each step careful but firm. When she reached the bench, she paused. She touched the edge of the piano lightly, as if greeting an old friend. The hall grew quiet again. People noticed her hands. They were not smooth like his. They showed signs of work, of effort beyond music. Some wondered how those hands could produce anything worth hearing. She sat down and took a breath. Before she played, she closed her eyes for a moment. Not to prepare, but to remember. Somewhere else. Somewhere quieter, the pianist watched closely. His confidence remained, but a small part of him felt uneasy. He did not know why. Perhaps it was the calm in her posture, the way she did not rush. Her fingers rested on the keys. The first note had not yet been played, and still, something had already changed. The hall felt different now. Not tense, not loud, just still. As if everyone sensed they were standing at the edge of something they did not understand yet. The pianist crossed his arms, waiting, certain. Ready, the woman opened her eyes. Her hands began to move. Her fingers touched the keys gently, almost like she was asking permission before speaking. They rested there for a second longer than expected. Not because she was nervous, but because she wanted to feel the piano beneath her hands. The wood was cool. The keys were smooth, familiar, even if this room was not. The first sound was soft. So soft that it almost felt like an accident. A few people leaned forward without realizing it, afraid they might miss something important. It was not loud or fast. It did not demand attention. It did not try to prove anything. It simply existed, like a quiet thought finally spoken out loud. The pianist frowned slightly. He had expected hesitation, maybe a wrong note, maybe a shaky start that would prove his point. But what came out was steady, calm, sure, in a way that did not need confidence. The woman played as if she was telling a story she had lived many times. Not a story she memorized, but one she remembered. Each note felt careful, but never forced. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was pushed. The melody moved slowly, like a walk taken without hurry on a familiar road. It carried warmth, then sadness, then something close to hope. All blended together, like real life often is. The hall felt smaller now, not because the walls moved or the ceiling lowered, but because everyone felt closer to the sound. People stopped shifting in their seats. Programs lay forgotten in laps. Even those who had whispered earlier were silent now, as if afraid that even a breath might break the moment. The pianist uncrossed his arms. He did not notice himself doing it. His body reacted before his thoughts did. Something about the way she played demanded attention, not through force, but through honesty. Her hands did not fly across the keys like his had. They did not race or show off. They moved with purpose, stopping when they needed to stop, slowing when the music needed space. There were small pauses that felt meaningful, It's like moments to remember something important before moving on. Somewhere in the middle of the song, the sound grew deeper. Not louder, just fuller. As if the music had found its courage. It felt like a voice that had waited a long time to be heard, now finally was. The pianist felt something tighten in his chest. He did not like the feeling. He told himself it was nothing. Just a simple tune. Nothing special. Nothing trained. Nothing worth this much attention, but he could not look away. The woman's face remained calm, but her eyes held weight. Not sadness alone. Not joy alone. Something mixed. Something honest. The kind of feeling that comes from living, not from learning, as she played. Images formed quietly in the minds of the listeners. Long days that ended without applause. Quiet nights filled with thought. Small rooms where dreams were whispered instead of announced. Missed chances. Simple hopes. The kind of life many people in the hall had forgotten, or perhaps never noticed at all. A woman in the third row wiped her eyes quickly, hoping no one saw. She did not even know why she was crying. An older man nodded slowly, his lips pressed together as if holding back memories. Someone near the back closed their eyes, letting the sound wash over them like rain after a long, dry season. The pianist shifted his feet. His mind drifted backward without permission. He remembered his own early days, sitting at a piano because he was told to, not because he wanted to. He remembered long lessons filled with rules, corrections, and sharp words. Praise came later, but love had never truly entered the room. Music had been a ladder, not a companion. Her music was not perfect. A trained ear could hear that. There were moments where the timing was not exact, where the pressure on the keys changed slightly. Small flaws lived inside the song, but none of that mattered, because it felt real. The pianist felt a strange heat rise to his face. He realized he had been holding his breath without knowing it. Slowly, he let it go. The song began to soften again, gently returning to where it had started. The sound thinned, like a story reaching its final lines. The last notes lingered in the air, light and fragile, like footsteps fading down a long hallway. Then she stopped. For a moment, no one moved. The silence was thick, but not uncomfortable. It felt earned, like the pause after something meaningful has been said. When no one wants to speak too soon, the woman lifted her hands from the keys and rested them in her lap. They stayed there quietly. She did not look at the audience. She did not look at the pianist. She simply sat there, breathing, as if letting the moment settle on its own. Then, somewhere near the center of the hall, a single clap sounded. It was hesitant at first, almost unsure, as if the person clapping needed permission to. Then another clap followed, and another. Soon the hall filled with applause. Not sharp or rushed, but deep and full. It rolled through the room like a wave that had been building quietly for a long time. People stood, without planning to. Some clapped slowly. Some smiled through tears they did not expect to feel. The woman stood up, clearly surprised. For a second, she looked unsure of what to do with her hands, her posture, herself. Then she bowed slightly, not because she knew the rules, but because gratitude found its way out. Her face showed a mix of disbelief and quiet thanks. The pianist remained still. The applause washed over him, but it did not feel like it usually did. It did not lift him or fill him with pride. Instead, it pressed inward. Settling somewhere deep inside his chest, he looked at the piano. The same piano he had played moments ago. The same keys. The same bench. And yet, it felt different now, even in silence. As if it held something he had never touched before. When the clapping finally softened, all eyes turned to him. The challenge had been his idea. The moment belonged to him now. He cleared his throat, but no words came at first. His mouth opened, then closed again. For the first time in a long while, he felt small. Not weak, just human. He stepped forward slowly. His confident posture had softened, his shoulders lowered. He looked at the woman, really looked at her this time, and saw not someone out of place, but someone brave enough to sit where she had been told she did not belong. He spoke quietly. The hall leaned in. He said he had spent his life chasing perfection. He said he believed control was everything, that skill was the highest form of truth. He admitted that somewhere along the way, he had forgotten why music existed in the first place. He paused, searching for words that did not hide behind pride. Then he said he was sorry, not just for the challenge, not just for the laughter, but for the way he had judged without listening. The woman nodded once. She did not smile. She did not stretch the moment. She did not demand more. She accepted the words and let them be enough. The host stepped forward, unsure how to guide what had just happened. But the audience did not need direction. They had already learned something that could not be explained with rules. The woman stepped away from the piano, turning to the side of the stage. People watched her walk, not with curiosity now, but with respect. The pianist remained alone at the center. The applause did not return. It did not need to. Later that night, when the hall emptied and the lights dimmed, he came back to the piano. The seats were empty. The stage was quiet. No audience waited. No praise followed. He sat down and placed his hands on the keys. He hesitated for the first time, did not know what to play. He thought of the woman's song. Not the notes, not the structure, but the feeling, the way it spoke without trying to prove anything. He played slowly, not for skill, not for status, just to listen. Somewhere beyond the stage, the woman walked home. The night air was cool. The streets were calm. Her steps felt light. She did not think of herself as someone who had won anything. She had simply shared what she carried. Music, she knew, did not belong to halls or titles. It lived in people, in quiet moments, in stories waiting for a chance to be heard. And that night, two lives moved forward, changed, not by a duel, but by a song that reminded them both what it meant to be human.